what is my roadmap? Rahul, wherever I am, how can I learn game art? How can be a game artist? And the first step is that you should learn the basics of art. Now, you can actually learn basics of art by actually going to a BCA program, by going to BFA. Sorry, you can do a Bachelor of Finance program. There are many colleges in India who offer Bachelor of Fine Arts. So BFA is a good option, but BFA doesn't teach game art. You'll only for 3-4 years you'll only learn the basics of game art. Now, if you want to learn it much faster, you can actually join G2M. We teach that stuff in just a few months, but that's one option. And now, for example, if you finished your BCA or your BTech or whatever, and you want to be a game artist, it's kind of really hard to go back and do BFA altogether, right? So that's a problem. So after you've learned the basics of art, you need to learn game art specialization, right? Whatever it is, 2D art, 3D art, modeling, rigging, animation, concept art, production art, whatever it is. Once you've learned the basics, you have to learn the specialization of your game art. And then a very important thing is to build your portfolio, because I don't know if you guys know me, but it's almost impossible to get a job as a game artist without building a good portfolio. So that's really important. You have to build a good and strong focused portfolio. The portfolio cannot just have like 100 random things. The portfolio has to be focused toward the job you want. It has to focus on the specialization. It has to be focused on the game studio. Once you have built a portfolio, then you'll be able to get a job, or you'll be able to do freelancing or whatever it is that you want. Okay, so this should be your roadmap to be a game artist. Learn the basics of art, learn game art specialization, build a portfolio, and then you can get a job, or you can be a freelancer, or do whatever it is that you want. Okay, lastly, now I want to talk you about one of my the case studies of one of my students. So this is Harshina. Harsh got hired as a technical design intern by Zynga India very recently. I think just last month he got hired. And what he told me, sir, I'm in Zynga. I got a job as technical design intern. And I said, congratulations. And I said, listen, tell me honestly, did you benefit from the G2M program? Because he actually, within 4 months or 5 months of joining the program, he actually got a job. And I asked him, listen, did the G2M program benefit you? And he says, look, he's actually in a game college right now in central India. Like, I'm not going to tell you which game college it is. It's a famous game college that's supposed to teach game design, but actually teaches game art. And he said, sir, within about 3 to 4 months of joining Gamer to Maker and attending your classes, I learned more than I learned in 3 years of college. And he got a job. 3 to 4 months within the G2M program, he actually got a job. So it's not about the degree, it's about the practical learning you get. You need learning from mentors, and not just some degree where some instructors come and teach you some random stuff. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the tool and software used in the game industry. Very important is Photoshop, right? Every single game artist needs to know Photoshop for sure, right? So there's Photoshop, there's Adobe Illustrator, and then there's Maya. For 3D, the most popular one, especially for larger game studios, is Maya. And then, of course, there is Blender. It's not negotiable. You need to know Photoshop. Okay, if you want to join the game industry as a game artist, you need to know Photoshop, and preferably you need to know Adobe Illustrator as well, because these two are really used a lot. Now, talking about Maya and Blender, there are a lot of discussions about which is the better one, which is the better software, and let's talk about that first. Okay, I recommend Blender for people who are beginning in the game industry, people who want to start being as artists. I definitely would recommend Blender. And these are the advantages. Firstly, it's easy to learn, okay, because there are lots of resources online, a lot of YouTube videos, a huge community for Blender. So Blender is really easy to learn. Next up is beginner friendly, and it's open source. Maya is expensive. You can actually purchase, you can actually get a student license, but I would say Blender is still the best, still is the best option. Okay. Now, very important is that you have everything in one software. You have video editing, you have sculpting, you have texture painting, you have 2D animations, you have procedural modeling, you have rendering engines. Everything is there within Blender. So you don't have to do something in some other software and then bring it into Blender. You can do everything in Blender. Blender is really, really good. And the interesting thing is that once you've learned Blender, it's actually quite easy to pick up Maya or pick up Max, right? Because the fundamentals of the tool are same. There's just a very, very slight difference between Blender and Maya and Max. Once you know Blender, and actually at this point, a lot of studios are actually changing over to Blender as well. So you can actually get a job at a mid-sized studio if you know Blender quite well. And most importantly, it can run on a low-end PC. You don't need a really, really good PC or a high-end laptop to run Blender. Okay, Blender is really, really awesome. Now, within G2M, within the mentorship, we actually teach Blender. We teach from beginning to end of Blender. And those of you who are interested in knowing more about this, you can ask questions in the Zoom call after this. Right. Next up, career prospects for game artists. A lot of people say, Rahul, what is it like? Can I make a good living as a game artist? What are the salaries, etc., etc.? I'm going to tell you about that. There are more than 500 game studios in India, guys. More than 500 game studios. Okay, most of them need game artists. Game artists are in huge demand. Good quality game artists are in huge demand. So don't worry about whether your career is good. Don't worry about whether AI is going to take your job. It's not. AI is not going to take your job. There's no chance of that happening. Game artists, game designers, game programmers are the future. It's an absolutely massive market, and it's a market, it's an industry that is growing hugely. So, yes, game artists are in absolutely massive demand. Okay, it's not at all difficult to get a job as a game artist in India if you have a decent portfolio and you have different skill and you have decent skills. And at good studios, I mean studios like Zynga, etc. I have known people who've got starting salaries at interns as like 50,000 rupees a month, 60,000 rupees a month, right? So you can get a really, really good starting salary as well, right? And you can also go abroad. I know a lot of people who've gone abroad, who are working in AAA, who are working in EA, who are working in Ubisoft, etc., in game design and game art roles. Okay.